Hello everybody, is everyone alright? My name is Ben, if you don't know me, hello. And today I want to go through some LGBTQ plus book recommendations. So over on my Instagram, just on the spur of the moment, I asked people for some LGBTQ plus book recommendations. And yeah, I got a load of responses, and I kind of want to share what people responded with, because there was a few ones which I'd heard of and kind of have read, but there's a lot that I hadn't heard of, and people kind of came through with their recommendations. So I was like, you know what, let's have a look. Let's just go through them and have a look, shall we? Because I want to share, and because there might be some that you haven't heard of, and yeah, let's just sort of share with the group what people recommended. So I've written them all down here. There's not going to be any sort of real order to this, and for most of these I haven't read, so I'm going to have to read a little bit about them as we go. So there's a couple that people recommended a couple times. Different people recommended a couple times. One of them was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I've no idea what it's about, so let's have a look, shall we? An iconic Hollywood star mysteriously chooses an unknown journalist to chronicle her life story in this sumptuous tale of ambition, regret, and forbidden love. Ooh, okay. So I'm guessing that we have a sort of, is this a sort of like a lesbian sapphic vibe going on? Full of old Hollywood glamour. So if you have read this one, as I'm sure you have, because, everyone's read it, then do let me know your thoughts about it. There we go. And then the other one, interestingly enough, was one called Tin Man by Sarah Winman, I think. Yes, here we go. It begins with a painting won in a raffle. 15 sunflowers hung on by the wall by a woman who believes that men and boys are capable of beautiful things. And then there are two boys, Elise and Micheal, who are inseparable. Oh, yes. And then the boys become men, and then Annie walks into their lives and changes nothing and everything. Okay, a triangle of lost longing. Story of paths taken and the regrets that can haunt forever. Masterclass stuff. Sorry. Okay. Oh, she went to drama school. Hello, Sarah Winman. Oh, she's still life. She's still life. I see. Ooh. Okay. Yes. Let's have a go at that at some point, shall we? That'll be interesting. I don't feel gay enough. Hang on. Okay, sorry. Okay, next, one that I've been avoiding for years. A Little Flipping Life. A Little Life. Yeah, I've been avoiding this one. So why have I been avoiding it? Well, because it's very long. How long is it? It's 752 pages. And it's just very, very depressing. And you see people doing reading vlogs of A Little Life, and they're all like, this book, focusing on a quartet of graduates as they embrace the seemingly limitless possibilities of New York City futures. A Little Life descends into the dark and involving tale of toxic relationships and the vicious scars of childhood. I mean, people say, because I had a couple of people, when I shared that one on my Instagram stories, some people were like, just read it, you've got to read it. And so I was like, have I got to read it? I've got to read it, haven't I? A Little Life. Next up, someone recommended something that I already own, The Colour Purple by Alice Walker, of course. We stand this book. Very, very intense, kind of dark subject matter. Yeah. But really it's the tale of two sisters, and their sort of correspondence with each other. It is very intense and very bleak at times, but it's at the end, the overwhelming sense of hope and kind of like at the end, just it's just glorious, lovely, and it has a very sort of and there is sort of a lesbian relationship in the middle of it, which is interesting. So yes, Colour Purple, definitely. Okay, back to a book that I haven't read. And yes, someone recommended Call Me By Your Name. Call Me By Your Name. Yes, I haven't read this. I know, sacrilegious. But yeah, and I haven't seen the film. I do know the kind of the memey, peachy stuff, which we won't go into. Heartbreaking and evocative, Call Me By Your Name chronicles the sexual awakening of 17-year-old Elio, at the hands of experienced Oliver in the warmth of the Italian Riviera. Yes. Yeah, I haven't really been drawn to it. I think I've sort of had I've had enough of kind of older, younger relationships. I know he's not meant to be. Is he meant to be that much older? I don't know. There's nothing wrong with being in your 30s and dating someone in your 30s, he says in a kind of ridiculous thing. But no, I mean, people do love it, and it's very kind of, heartbreaking stuff. Maybe I shouldn't knock it, should I? I should just give it a go and just, give it a go. Get on with it, Ben. Oh yes, someone recommended a sort of a combo, The Hours by Michael Cunningham and Mrs. Dalloway, who said that she would buy the flowers herself. And yes, I kind of want to do that. The Hours. I'm a big fan of The Hours because I got the screenplay here. I love that film so much. I did read the novel years and years and years ago, and I would like to go back to it. But I would like to read Mrs. Dalloway first. Has Mrs. Dalloway got some in it? I think it does, doesn't it?
Sally Seaton. It's extraordinary to see her again.
So yeah, I'm interested in that. In that sort of combo. I think that would be interesting. Okay, next, I'm really, really interested in this one. Love in the Big City. I'm really fascinated by this one. The cover, the UK cover, it doesn't really scream like, gay rights at me.
That was fighting for gay rights.
But yeah, Love in the Big City. Split into 4 sections and written with empathy and scathing wit. Sang Young Park's accomplished queer coming-of-age story details the narrator's hedonistic yet troubled existence in contemporary Seoul. Young, a cynical yet fun-loving Korean student who pinballs from home to class to the beds of recent Tinder matches. Yet in time, even just she settles down, leaving Young alone to care for his ailing mother and find companionship in his relationships with a series of men, including one whose handsomeness is matched by his coldness, and another who might end up being the great love of his life. I'm up for that. I think very soon I might get that sort of today. Yeah, I'm interested in that one. Okay, so someone recommended this author, Pier Vittorio Tondelli, who's apparently quite big in Italian circles, but only one of his books has been translated into English, and that is Separate Rooms. I can't find anything about it. What is it? Leo is an Italian writer in his 30s. Thomas, his German lover, is dead. On a plane to Munich, Thomas's hometown, Leo slips into a reverie of their meeting and life in Paris, nights in Thomas's flat in Montmartre, and a desperate, drug-induced flight through the forests of northern France that spells the end for Leo and Thomas. Languid, erotic life together. Oh, okay. Are you telling me the whole plot, or is this the blurb? The impossible striving of memory to recreate life and the hostility of a prejudiced world. Separate Rooms, Tondelli's last book, is a powerful novel of the strength of love and the trauma of death. All right. Let's have a go at that one, shall we? Okay, next up, someone recommended The Naked Civil Servant by Quentin Crisp. Right, so I don't know much about this. Oh yeah, okay. Quentin Crisp describes his unhappy childhood and the stresses of adolescence that led him to London. There in bedsits and cafes he found a world of brutality and comedy, of short-lived jobs and precarious relationships, all of which he faced with humour and intelligence. So Quentin Crisp, I don't know a lot about him, but he is a character that, you do know of. So I'd be interested to read his autobiography. Also, there is a Penguin classic, which looks fabulous, so let's get that. Okay, next, there's a couple of books that are by the same author that people recommended. So people recommended Carmen Maria Machado. So people recommended In the Dream House. What's this? Drafting in pop culture references and classic literature to help explain all sides of a psychologically complex issue. In the Dream House forensically analyzes the manipulative mechanics behind an abusive relationship. So we have Her Body Ardy Ardy and Other Parties. So this looks like a short story collection. So it's blurring the boundaries between magic realism, science fiction, and horror. Machado's startling short stories exude infinite imagination and razor-sharp prose. Deliciously weird and dark and erotic and queer and smart and full of desire and profoundly original. This is about the alienation of being a woman in a way you've never read before. So there we go. There's something. This is a moment. That is a moment. Hello. Look at this. I'd go out like this. So this was an interesting one. My Cat Yugoslavia. I hadn't heard of this. A strange, haunting, and utterly original exploration of displacement and desire. In 1980s Yugoslavia, a young girl named Emin is married off to a man she hardly knows, but soon her country is torn apart by war and she is forced to flee with her family. Decades later, Emin's son Bekim has grown up a social outcast in a country superstitious of foreigners. Aside from casual hookups, his only companion is a pet boa constrictor. Until one night in a gay bar, Bekim meets a talking cat. It is this witty, charming, manipulative creature that starts him on a journey back to Kosovo to confront his demons and make sense of the remarkable, cruel history of his family. And soon he learns that love can be found in the most unexpected places. Interesting. Got sort of Studio Ghibli vibes, but sort of, in very, very circumstances. That's interesting. Ooh, I'm very interested in that. Okay, next. Now this one sounded fascinating. So someone recommended The Charioteer by Mary Renault. This sounded good. So, injured at Dunkirk, Laurie Adele, a young corporal, is recovering at a rural veterans hospital. There he meets Andrew, a conscientious objector serving as an orderly, and the men find solace in their covert friendship. Then Ralph Lanyon appears, a mentor from Laurie's school days. Through him, Laurie is drawn into a night-knit circle of gay men whom liaisons are fleeting, and he is forced to choose between the ideals of a perfect friendship and the pleasures of experience. First published in 1953, The Charioteer is a tender, intelligent coming-of-age novel and a bold, unapologetic portrayal of homosexuality that stands with Gore Vidal's The City and the Pillar and James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room as a landmark work in gay literature. I'd never heard of this. The Charioteer. And I want to read it. I think this is a fabulous recommendation. Yes, The Charioteer. Have you read it? Is it good? What else have they? Gore Vidal's The City and the Pillar. Jim Willard, former high school athlete and clean-cut boy next door, is haunted by the memory of a romantic adolescent encounter with his friend Bob Ford. As Jim pursues his first love in awe of the very same masculinity he possesses himself, his progress through the secret gay world of 1940s America unveils surreptitious Hollywood affairs, glamour, the hidden life of the military in the Second World War, and the underworld bar culture of New York City. Ooh. Gore Vidal shocked the American public, which has just begun to hail him as their newest and brightest young writer. He remains not only an authentic and profoundly important social document, but also a serious exploration of the nature of idealistic love. Okay, so, yes. Gore Vidal, City and the Pillar. I see you. And then the other one that's that thing mentioned and that someone else mentioned. Good old Giovanni's Room. Someone recommended this, and I've read it, and I've got it. And yes, I would recommend it too. It's pretty kind of like, it is kind of like it is a tragic gay love story, but there's something really lush about it. Really lush about it. I mean, that first encounter when he meets Giovanni in the bar is kind of like, oh, I want this to happen to me. Yeah, it's gorgeous. It is kind of, tragic love story, but I think it is just, Then someone else recommended this, Stone Butch Blues. Stone Butch Blues by Leslie Feinberg. Woman or man, this internationally acclaimed novel looks at the world through the eyes of Jess Goldberg, a masculine girl growing up in the Ozzie and Harriet McCarthy era and coming out as a young butch lesbian in the pre-Stonewall gay drag bars. Of Blue Collar Town, sorry. Stone Butch Blues traces a propulsive journey powerfully evoking history and politics while portraying an extraordinary protagonist full of longing, vulnerability, and working-class grit. This once underground classic takes the reader on a rollercoaster ride of gender transformation and exploration and ultimately speaks to the heart of anyone who has ever suffered or gloried in being different. Ooh. Yes, I am very interested in that. The cover is kind of is fabulous as well. Yes, we shall try and... I'm going to try and get a copy of that because that sounds fabulous. Next, someone recommended Forbidden Colours by Mishima. So Mishima, I've read Sailor Who Fell in Love with the... What is it? The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea. So I've read that, and that was like one of the most disturbing books I've ever read. So this one, So, written when Mishima was only 26, Forbidden Colours is a depiction of a male homosexual relationship in which a rich older man buys the love of a young man who is stunningly handsome but who lacks the ability to love. As in Man's Death in Venice, the older man's longing for the beauty of youth is associated with aestheticism and death. Okay, well, I'm interested. I mean, I think the Mishima is a very what's the word? Very just fascinating person in life. You know, he had a very kind of infamous, nasty death and stuff. And so so I'll be interested in this Forbidden Colours. Yeah, Ooh, yes, that's a good choice. The person who said that. Next, someone recommended this author, Akwaeke Emezi. I've read Freshwater. The other one that they recommended was The Death of Vivek Oji. I mean, Akwaeke Emezi is a really prolific author. I mean, the speed in which they write is just like, woo. But I've read this, and this is like fascinating. I think this is like really kind of like, This is a look at gender. It's a look at the after effects of trauma and sort of sexual assault. It's a look at sort of spirituality as well. It's very, very complex and deep, and I think it's really, really fabulous. So I definitely recommend that as well. And I need to read their other books as well because because everyone loves them. So next, someone recommended this Box Hill by Adam Miles Jones, which I've read. Okay. So this is an interesting one. This is about a dom sub relationship. It sort of explores that kind of dynamic in a very sort of detailed way. It's a very controversial book. It's a very kind of like uncomfortable book. It is interesting. It's very short. I would recommend it. It is kind of very uncomfortable and very kind of like, but yes, it's certainly very, very interesting to sort of look at, that kind of dynamic, and what is sort of looking at consent and, sort of the blurring of the lines between consent and manipulation and coercion and stuff. It's just very, very kind of like, but yes, I would recommend that. So next, someone recommended something called The Prettiest Star. Let's have a look. Small town Appalachia doesn't have a lot going for it, but it's where Brian is from. Brian, and where he's chosen to return to die. Oh, hello. At 18, Brian, like so many other promising gay men, arrived in New York City without much more than a love for the freedom and release from his past that it promised. But within 6 short years, AIDS would claim his lover, his friends, and his future. Okay. So set in 1986. A year after Rock Hudson's death shifted the public consciousness of the epidemic and brought the news of AIDS into living rooms, kitchens across America. Novel that speaks to the question of what home and family means when we try to forge a life for ourselves in a world that can be harsh and unpredictable. All right, okay, interesting. Would you like an over-shoulder moment on a cover? Okay. A non-fiction book that someone recommended, which I'm sort of interested in, is Gay Bar: Why We Went Out, and I'm very. This looks really, really cool. One of the best books of the year. As gay bars continue to close at an alarming rate, yes, a writer looks back to find out what's being lost in this indisputable, intimate, and stylish celebration of queer history. Ooh. Strobing lights and dark rooms, throbbing house and drag queens on counters, first kisses, last call, the gay bar has long been a place of solidarity and sexual expression. But in urban centres around the world, they are closing, a cultural demolition that has Jeremy Atherton Lynn wondering, what was the gay bar? That's certainly true in London. Yeah. I mean, so many. I mean, when I think back to when I moved to London, which was in 2009, I mean, the number of. I mean, there were certain bars that were closing then, but there was such an array, such a kind of wide array. I mean, people sort of. I mean, you had the Gay Astoria, and pop stars. Remember that? Ghettos. People love Ghetto. And in recent years, kind of XXL and the Black Cap or the Black Cap. Yeah, so they are closing very much, and so there's sort of less and less places for people to go to. So yes, no, I'm very interested in that, and that cover is interesting as well. Last but by no means least, we have a book called Faggots! A faggot of what? Parsley? No, Faggots by Larry Kramer. What is this about? Oh, hello. Graphically sexual and one of the best-selling gay novels of all time. Bad gay. Faggots of Parsley is the story of Fred Lemish, who at 39 has built up his body into a fatless state of being in great shape. Finally, he is ready to find Mr. Right, but from the Everhard Baths to the Pines on Fire Island, to that place of myth and legend, the Meat Rack, Lemish is looking for his dream lover in all the wrong places. Faggots of Parsley is a fierce satire of the gay ghetto and a touching story of one man's desperate search for permanence, commitment, and love. Yes, that's fabulous as well, isn't it? Okay, so I'll just finish with some recommendations from my own shelves, just because we can. Mr. Loverman by Bernardine Evaristo, it's fabulous. Dear Transition Bebe, really, really cool, complex, uncomfortable... Not uncomfortable, it's just, just very, very cool book. Memorial by Brian Washington, fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Here Again Now, Okuchaku Inzello, a book all about masculinity, and it takes the Book of Ruth from the Bible and kind of updates it into... present day, well not present day, but contemporary London. Very, very cool. Oh, just finished this. Less. Fabulous. Comic novel. Ruby Fruit Jungle. Classic! Orlando, Virginia Woolf. Very, very interesting. Really, really interesting. I should reread this soon, I think. It's not readily available, but The Picture of Dorian Gray, Oscar Wilde, I would recommend that. It's kind of like a really kind of subtle look at homosexuality. Anything else? Oh, why not? Go on. Red, White and Royal Blue. Do it! Read it! Yeah! Well, just because it's here. Shuggy Bane. It's very. If I've read this, I can handle a little life if I've read this, can't I? Can I? Yeah. And I really want to have a go at Young Mungo as well. His newest one. That would be interesting. So there you go. So there's a wide array of different LGBTQ books. Yeah, I just found it interesting. I hope you did too. I hope you've got some recommendations there. If there's any other books that, well, I'm sure there are, that I haven't mentioned or we haven't sort of got around to, then do let me know and do let everyone else know in the comments below. Yes, thank you very much for watching. If you've been watching. I hope everyone is alright, and I shall see you very soon. Bye-bye. I thought this would be a joke, but actually I'm gagged. This is like...